Hey guys, Skis here, back with another Bitcoin video. So Bitcoin currently sitting at 63.6. We did actually take out the 65k high over the weekend, and I think at the end of last week actually. And we're currently getting a little bit of a pullback. We're down 3% on the day. But I think that now that we've broken 65k, we have the fourth data point. So we can say, at least in my opinion, we're in an uptrend now where we set the low, set a high, set a higher low, and now a higher high. And I've seen people saying that we're not actually in an uptrend yet because we haven't broken the 70k high. Like, they were not really looking at this high as the high to break. They were looking at the 70k high to break, which makes sense. I mean, you can argue that. I think for me, though, we've already broken the previous high, so I think we're in an uptrend. But I think the reason why people are actually saying 70k is because of this trend line that we have above of resistance that we've just had resistance at since March. And I think that it's just another level that we have to break. I don't really think it's the uptrend or I don't think this high. I don't think we can ignore the 65k high and just say it's the 70k high. At least for me. But I do think that this resistance above us is important, and it's the next level that I want to see Bitcoin get to, and I think it's going to break this high in October. I'm not sure when in October. I think it'll probably be like mid to late October that we start breaking it. It actually could happen sooner, and we're going to talk about that, why it could happen sooner in a sec, but I think it will break it in October. And I think that coming up to this level is going to be difficult to break. So I don't know if Bitcoin's just going to do it immediately because we have the 70k high. I mean, we just have all of this resistance that we're going to have to get through. Basically like high 60s to low 70s. And then we also just have the resistance from the trend line above. So we kind of have like double resistance when we come up to this level. So I think it's going to be difficult, but I do think Bitcoin's going to do it. And I think Bitcoin just looks really good. I think that it can actually get a pullback as low as like 60, I think 61 through 50, 59 to 61 to me is a pretty good area that if Bitcoin did come down to, I'd want to see hold. Like, if Bitcoin starts coming down and it like doesn't hold this level and starts like breaking all this support, I would actually be a little concerned for Bitcoin. But it hasn't done that yet, so I don't really think we need to talk about it too much. But I do want to see it hold these levels of support if it does start to come down a little bit. So yeah, I honestly think that we're going to start going up. I don't even think we're going to come down here, but we could. And I want to show you guys this image, which I think is really, really interesting. And this is showing Bitcoin's market cycle as measured from the bottom. So the market cycle bottom. So basically the lowest point it got to in the cycle until where it is now. So the purple line is the current cycle. So that's the cycle we're in now. So the bottom down here at 1 is 15.9k or whatever the low was in 2022, like 15 point something. The green line is the 2021 cycle. So down here is like, I don't even know what it was in 2020 or 2019. It was like 4k or like 5k. And then the yellow line is the 2017, wherever it was at the bottom, and you can see how it played out to its peak. And you can see, as we are the purple line, you can see the times when we were ahead of the other two cycles and when we were behind. So you can see at around 100 days, we were actually ahead of both cycles. And you can see, between like 275 to like 350, we were behind both cycles. So actually really great time to load up if you use this as reference. And, we got above it, both of them again at around 450 to, like 525. And then this 6-month period that we've had, all it's done when looking at it in this perspective is it just put us in line with the two cycles. And the most interesting thing now is that all three of them are just perfectly aligned right now, which I think is just so cool, and really interesting. And you can see how the last two cycles played out from here. So it's another thing that really goes with what I was talking about, seasonality. Typically, Bitcoin does really good at this time in the cycle. And that doesn't mean it's going to do, it's going to play out the same way now that it did in the past. But I think if it's not going to follow this, there's going to be a reason why it doesn't follow. Like, it doesn't just not follow this for no reason. Maybe, something has to do with unemployment, because the unemployment rate has been like kind of, peaking, or like really like increasing sharply. So it's on a pretty big rise up. I mean, maybe something like with a war could, something like that could really hinder Bitcoin. Maybe something with like the Federal Reserve, because the next meeting in November, they're supposed to cut 50 points again. That's what the market's expecting. Maybe they only cut 25 and like people freak out. I don't really think that would actually cause it, really. But like just something like that, I think could, delay it. I don't even think it would stop this incoming second leg. I think worst case scenario, it just delays it a few months. But I still don't see that happening. I still think we're going to follow it, at least right now. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, I really think Bitcoin's going to do something like really soon. And I really think that's going to take out the 70K. It's going to break this overhead resistance and start moving up in October, because that's just what it does typically. And see, it's been a while, not only like seasonality, but the structure that Bitcoin's been playing, where from the market low, we go up, we kind of just do nothing for, this was like, we saw this was actually, this period here is actually longer than this period here still, only by a few days now, but technically it's still longer, which is crazy. Then we have a huge move up, and now we're just kind of, we're going sideways slightly down. And then just, it just continues, just leads on to the next leg, up. So I really think that we're going to go up, and I don't really know, for sure if we're going to, but I just think we're going up just based off of what I've seen Bitcoin do, because I've been watching Bitcoin a lot, maybe an unhealthy amount of a lot. And just the sentiment. I mean, people are starting to get a little, like, actually bearish. I mean, I don't really think Bitcoin's going to set a lower low. Like, technically, we could even, like, come all the way down here, right? And, like, not take out this low. And it would still kind of be an uptrend if we did something like this. But I really don't want to see that happen, because it's a lot of key support that Bitcoin would be breaking if it came all the way back down here. And I just feel like that doesn't really make like too much. There's no reason for it to do it unless it has a reason. I think it's not gonna like break all this level of support. So also, yeah, guys, let's also talk about October, because it is typically a really good month, and today's the last day of September, so we're heading into October. And I want to compare it to the 2020 October, because it's the most comparable year, in my opinion, to where we are right now. I mean, we just saw the image. We see where we are in line, so we can kind of compare it to October in 2020. And the first thing I want to actually talk about, because I was looking at this a little bit before I made this video, and it's actually really interesting, because you can see these three candles were these red ones, not this green one, but this was September 30th, the last day of September. So this was exactly 4 years ago, this red one. We went down 0.57%. October 1st was red, minus 1.47. October 2nd was also red. And like we did wick a little bit lower, but we only closed 0.43. And so what's interesting about this is also, what didn't take out the high. So, I mean, I think we took out the 65K high, but people are saying it has to be, is the 70K high. So, maybe you could like compare it to that. But we actually started red in October, and it wasn't even that, like, this doesn't even look bad. We didn't even come that close to this previous low. We were still basically in an uptrend, It's just that this intermediate part you didn't really know if the uptrend was going to continue just because this high was not as high as this high. In our case, I think we already have shown that we're in an uptrend, so I think it looks better now than it did in 2020. But people were probably just saying the same things here that they're saying now, is that Bitcoin is not going to do it, and we're just going to sell off soon, and we're going down. And then all of a sudden we just went up in October. And this was actually, so we actually started going really up, like October 8th took us back to where we were wicking right before we came down in the beginning of October. So second week of October basically was when we started to move up, and then went a little bit sideways in like mid-October, and then end of October we just continued. So I think something like that could play out similarly. Obviously it's not going to play out the exact same way, but that's what happened in 2020. We'll see what happens in 2024. But, a couple of red candles, to me, it doesn't scare me out. And I think it's actually more risky to not be in the markets, at least spot. Like if you're like leverage trading, then I guess you can leverage trade whenever. Just, be careful when you do it. Just take a good entry point. But if you're just in spot, I think it's more risky to not be in the markets than it is to be in the markets. And that's why I am in the markets, because I think the upside potential is just really crazy good. And the downside potential to me isn't, horrendous. Like I said, if we do come down, I think it would be like a temporary, it'd be like a delay because something happened in the economy that's pulling it down. But I think default that we should end up going up. And so if the default is up, then I think it's riskier to just be on the sidelines. That's just my opinion. But so I'm just expecting Bitcoin to really start moving up really soon. I mean, in October, basically. So basically from tomorrow, come up to 70K, this trend line around this high. I do think it's going to break it, and I think we're going to go up. But we'll have to see. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.